Hey guys, I got a special guest today. He started as a dentist and now he's the founder of the Freedom Founders Mastermind. And he's got a new book, Own Your Freedom: Sustainable Wealth for a Volatile World. We have Dr. David Phelps. How are you doing today, Doc?
Hey, Jordan, I am doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you here. So for you, where did the dentistry, where did the financial literacy, where did it all start with you? Where did you grow up?
I think it started, yeah, I think it started when I was very, very young. I had really great parents in that they provided well for our family, but they didn't give us, myself and my two sisters, didn't give us extra stuff. In other words, they didn't, pour on and buy us the new bike or the new tennis shoes or, the stuff that we as kids want, right? I'm very grateful for that because it meant if I wanted to have that level of financial independence and that, well, I still had a roof over my head provided by somebody else, but that is a level of independence, right? When we're kids, we want to have the freedom to, get on a bike and go somewhere. Or I was a big tennis player. Well, big tennis player. I loved playing tennis. And so I made money mowing lawns, lawn jobs, and selling greeting cards door to door, newspaper route, even lemonade stands when you're younger. Didn't make a lot of money there, but it's the entrepreneurship, right? My whole point was my parents didn't pave a way. And I had to earn my way to what I really wanted, what I really wanted in my life. And that led me to really having that entrepreneurial spirit, I think, at an early age. But then I followed a path that people would say today is one that would be a platform of, word I'm looking for is really, gosh, I just can't find the word. Without peril. A pathway through education to become, in a career, a doctor, a dentist. I went down the dental path because, it's about security, right? So I want something secure. Well, people always said if you get the best education you can, that's really good. It's secure, right? Just like we were talking about earlier when you were talking about getting your first corporate job, and this is what it's all about. I'm finally there, and then you look around and go, wait a minute, where's that freedom? Where's that spirit I had when I was a kid, right? So anyway, the side note to this, and I'll let you jump back in, is that when I was in college, studying the stuff I had to study to get into dental school, but I still wanted to figure out how to be a good steward, or let's just call it an investor, right? I didn't have any money then. I was trying to pay student loans, but someday I'm going to have money, right? So I want to learn how to be an investor. That just always was something I wanted to do. So I read books on the stock market, and I read some books on real estate, and comparing and contrasting the two. The real estate just made sense. It was a tangible asset. You could add value to it. You can more control. I just didn't get all the data and all the stock market stuff. So I convinced my dad when I was in my first year of dental school, 1980. So that's 41 years ago, just to date me a little bit. Is I convinced him to be my, quote, financial partner in the rental house we bought and co-owned together. And I was the manager. He's the passive investor, right? Typical, we call it typical joint venture today. I didn't know anything typical back then. But long story short, while I was waiting tables all through college and dental school and making pretty decent money on tips in pretty good restaurants, right? Flexible hours. But when I got through and evaluated the amount of time I put into acquiring, renovating, and, quote, managing this asset, this rental property, for 4 years, my dad and I split about $50,000 in capital gain profit. Again, 1980, kid comes out of school, $25,000. What do you go do with that? Well, I could have bought a car, could have bought all kinds of cool stuff. No, I parlayed that into more rental properties.
Yeah.
And so that was my start. So actually, I was a real estate investor. Then I went to become a dentist, and then I left and went back full circle to do what I do today, which is Freedom Founder. So I'll let you connect the dots in there. I need to stop and take a breath.
Yeah, no, David, I feel your energy. I love it. For me, what I really found interesting is, first of all, for you to have the forethought to first invest in real estate, because most people rely on, hey, I'm a dentist, I've been here, I'm making a solid income, I can do my own practice, but that's my bread and butter. That's my thing. You know what I mean? So for you to go out there and continue investing, what was that about you that was like, hey, I want to continue this path? Like, I'm not just a dentist, I'm a real estate investor as well. Like, you're wearing multiple hats.
I've always been a long-term planner, Jordan. probably sometimes too much. My wife sometimes has to bring me back into the current day and say, hey, we need to enjoy life. So there's a balance there, no question about it. But I've always been a long-term planner. And once I understood how real estate worked, and I got the real benefit from seeing how our first house worked, and it wasn't all by luck. It was, there's certainly timing there, but we did some right things. I thought, this is a good path to go. I get it. I can make this work. I was learning from other people. I said, I can make this work. So I would sacrifice the niceties that, yes, should come. You could say a lot of people think they're entitled to once they go through a lot of school, and they live like students, and maybe with their spouse, if they're married, it's like, okay, finally I got the degree and the license and we're actually making some money now. And it's like, well, we should upgrade like our stuff, our lifestyle. Okay, well, I'm not against that. I just wouldn't let us upgrade a lot. In other words, I kept us in a rental property, first a house and then an apartment. This is before we had kids, for 4 years. And the first house that we lived in as a actually really nice house was 4 years after I graduated from dental school, and we didn't buy it. I lease optioned it. I lease optioned that house, a house on the water. I can't go into that story, but it was, I learned how to negotiate. I learned how to find a motivated seller. And so I made my wife happy, because who cares if you own it, as long as you control it. And I controlled it for a lot less than I would have had to go and pay and put the down payment down, the hard money down. And so at the same time, I was building up this rental portfolio. So I had to still appease my wife, because if I would have pushed this down too far and kept her in an apartment too many years, she probably would have left. So that's not a goal to have. The goal is not to lose your marriage while you're trying to build up financial security or financial independence. So I had to balance, but I think it's the creativity. I think we lack in life a lot of times, Jordan, any one of us at any time. We see problems or challenges or goals that we want to hit, and we see them as there's one way to go. It's like how everybody else does it. Well, then I got to do these steps like this. Not necessarily. You have to be willing, I think, to solicit other ideas. And I think that comes down to, your relationships, other people. We were talking about how you have the opportunity with your podcast to talk to a lot of amazing entrepreneurs, and you're building a network and you're learning a lot of principles that I'm sure you picked a few off the tree and planted those in your own tent, so to speak. And right. So knowing other people that can stimulate your thinking to say, is there only one way to get to what I want? Or can I get X being my goal without Y? Can I get X without Y? In other words, do I have to do all this other stuff to get what I really want? What do I really want? And people think it's more money. Yeah, you get out of school, you get the license, the degree, the business, the career, professional practice, whatever it is, and you're starting making money. And you think, well, and if I work harder or do this or that, I'll make more money. Okay, what does that lead to? Well, typically we just elevate our lifestyle. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that's what we do. And but what do we really want, Jordan? I say we want time. I say we want time. We want choices. We want options. Not that we don't want to be lazy and not work. We want to do something that's satisfying, that gives relevance to us, to helping people, providing value. Absolutely. But don't do it at the cost of giving up your freedom.
Yeah, David, you got very valid points here. And it does come to the question of, what do you want? And is it, I want that promotion so that I can make more money so that I have to do this, or because then I have to still work more. You know what I mean? It's not always you get more money and less time, but what you're providing, and what a lot of people might not what the conventional wisdom doesn't say, is that there are ways to make exponentially more money with less time. How is that possible? And that's kind of what you dive into at the Freedom Founders.
Yep. And in the book that I just published with my co-author Dan Kennedy, Own Your Freedom, it's a book on principles. We really made it very evergreen. It doesn't go into a lot of tactical stuff about how to buy real estate, no money down, we went on high level on principles. I do allude to real estate because I'm a big believer in real estate, but there's other ways to do it, whatever it is. But to your point, Jordan, it's having clarity. What do I, or we, assuming you're married, because you have to do things as a we, you can't just do it by yourself. You have to be, you have to be together on this. But that's part of the conversation is figuring out together what we want. And I think, many times in marriage, and I can speak for myself, is many times we're not congruent with what we think that is. Not being, totally, gender specific here, but many times women, they're more the nurturers and they want the quality of time with the family, right? And I think we should all want that. And I think unfortunately, a lot of drivers, which I would put myself in that category. I'm a driver. I want to get to goals. I want to get stuff done. I love creating and orchestrating. I just love the path. But then if we drive too hard, too long, and then we miss those years of what people really look at when they're, at their end, is not, how many deals I did, how much money, how many companies I had, whatever. It's no, the time I spent with the people I cared about. And that's what I think. We can't put that off to someday. It's really easy to say, well, when I get this right, or I get this debt paid off, or I get this amount of capital in the bank or investments or real estate or whatever it is, when I get this just right, then I'm gonna take a breath and I'm gonna spend some time with my family. That day never comes where we've got it all that way, because life is not that way. Life is not in a box that you can just put a nice string around going, yep, it's good, it's all good, because something will change tomorrow. It could be a good thing, could be something that's challenged. You have to deal with it, comes out of the blue, like things that happen in my life. It's just, that's the way life is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have this group where we talk about personal development and different ideas. And some of the questions that we've always come up with is, in the last year, like, what's your favorite, what's one of your fondest memories? And usually when you sit there and think about that, it comes down to a couple things. It's travel, time with loved ones, and maybe a deal, maybe if it was something like really exotic, but you have to remember that the regular, like for you as a dentist, it's not, hey, I saw my client and that was really exciting. Like, that's not it. It's something unique and something like that's game changer for you. So then if you can reverse engineer that, how do I create those breakthrough moments? It's living intentional and kind of setting yourself up. So like, for example, something I did is I had this roommate, he was moving away, but we wanted to do an activity. So we decided that we were going to hike Machu Picchu. So we did that last month. That was pushed off for 18 months because of COVID.
Yeah.
And the thing was that financial impact, it didn't really impact me because I was saving along the way.
Yeah.
And I didn't choose to wait that one moment, but that's a moment that will stay there for forever. That's 2021. That's an amazing moment. But that's kind of what you're diving into, these incredible moments that make the difference. And it's not about, I saw 25 clients today.
Yeah.
Or I did, because you don't need to have that big house. You don't need to drive that car. You don't need any of these things. A lot of them do them for external validation.
Yeah, you don't need them. One of the points I make, and I love to catch younger people if they'll listen. And I'm saying, when I was younger, I didn't necessarily listen to everybody, right? We think we know it all. But if younger people will listen to this, and again, I am not against anybody having dreams of living whatever lifestyle they want. I'm not one to say, oh no, you can't, shouldn't. No. Here's what I would say. Instead of elevating your lifestyle as you produce more income, whatever it is, trading time for dollars, which is what we typically start out doing, don't let your lifestyle elevate with that. What you should do, and this is really what I was doing. The question you asked me is, when I was buying more rental properties, is I wanted the assets, whatever asset you want. I just love real estate, but whatever your asset is, acquire the asset with that extra capital and make the asset pay for the elevated lifestyle, or some of that elevated lifestyle. So once you have the assets, it's like having the golden goose. Do you ever want to kill the golden goose, actually kill the goose? No, you want the goose to produce. So, but if you never have a golden goose that produces those eggs, which is the cash flow, because that's what it's all about. It's cash flow, replacing your active income with passive annuity cash flow. That's what starts to let you get freedom. And if your lifestyle is elevating, not from your work, which turns you into a treadmill, make the assets produce that. That way you can still have the time and you can still work and be relevant, and you can still get promotions or whatever it is, whatever you want to do, but you're not there trying to just tread water as your lifestyle goes up. Now, well, I got to keep this up now. Now I got to keep it up more. And then you have a COVID or something comes in, or you have a family incident or a health issue, or all kinds of things can hit from in blindside. And when that happens, and if you can't go to work for some reason, then where are you? Where are you? If I've got assets that have been producing the majority, maybe you get to a point where you're, what we call it, free for life and freedom pounders, where now all of your lifestyle burn rates being produced by assets. Okay, you're pretty good shape.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thought, because people sit there and they think, oh, I'm in the nice town, I got the big house, I got the car, I got all that. Now, what happens if the money does get shut off? Most aren't prepared for that situation because they haven't been building the assets, because they focus too much on the income. And that's something that it's a huge issue going on. And we need to realize that that income's not going to go forever. We have to make our own income. And one of the ways I found that out, like what you're saying regarding the assets, the golden egg, all that, is I changed my association with what I want. Like, I want those assets. Like, that makes me happy. Like, if I go buy something that's like an asset where it can go up, I'm like, wow, that was really exciting today. Like, you know what I mean? How do you think about that?
Yeah. I think it's what I tell people is you want your money, your investable money, after you pay overhead and lifestyle and taxes, you want that investable money. You want it working as hard for you as you work for it. And see, most people abdicate that. Well, why? I mean, I know in my profession, typically what people do is they put their money in IRAs and 401ks to defer the tax. And I get that. I mean, that's understandable. But really, who's working that money? Well, it's in stocks and bonds, annuities, and whole life insurance. And, you know, we could name a whole bunch of products, but are those products really congruent with what my goals are? They don't know. I mean, they're just fingers crossed, hoping that the market stays up. And when the market goes down, it's like, well, now what do you do? Right. So I think it's the abdication of financial acumen. Well, it starts with lack of financial acumen. I mean, very intelligent people that I have the opportunity to work with. It is a lot. And unfortunately, the traditional monetary system, which I'm kind of beating up a little bit on Wall Street. I'm not meaning to beat up on people there, but the construct is the message they give to us, right, Jordan, is the financial world is very complex and complicated. It's very, so you know what? You do what you do and we'll take care of it for you. Well, do they really? I don't think so. I've never met anybody in my personal world that, quote, retired. I hate that word anyway, but they retired off of their 401k. Now, they might have had a 401k and it could have added to it, but did they really retire off of a, quote, 401k, which is where my group of people, that's where they go, you know. And it's like, I just don't talk to people that have been at the game working hard in those careers. Very few, and I think very few, and the ones that are outliers that actually can, quote, transition out, slow down when they want to, or in the lifestyle they want to, because, well, the uncertainty today. I mean, the uncertainty we have in the marketplace, look at the inflation. Look at the inflation ramping up right now. You know, we've gone decades with modest, I'll call it modest. The CPI is not really constructed accurately, but still we would have had modest inflation since Paul Volcker knocked it down back in 1981, 82. We've had virtually 40 years of where people don't even talk about inflation. This last year, everybody's talking about inflation and the cost of everything going up. How does that make people that are thinking about getting off the treadmill, where active income can at least keep up, and they're saying, well, I'm done, I'm burned out, I got to get out. Do I have enough? Mr. or Mrs. Financial Advisor, do I have enough? And they go, I don't know. If you're still healthy, you probably ought to keep working. Well, that wasn't I had mine. I'm 65 years old. You're healthy, but that's not my goal. It's like, well, then how do I know I have enough? You never learn how to orchestrate cash flow from whatever your accumulation is. That accumulation model just doesn't work.
David, you're right on. So I think for this group, let's aim it at, you got a 25-year-old working, graduated at 22. They're starting to make money. They're making whatever, 50 to 100 grand. What is the breakdown to really set themselves up for this situation? What do you think would be best for that?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost is discipline. I mean, develop a discipline, a habit, and that habit is what I said earlier. It's don't let your increase in income, even though you're hardworking and you can say I deserve it because I got the raise or I did the extra deal and I got the bonus. Okay, I get it, but don't let that go to your head. And it's hard to do today, Jordan, because of social media. I mean, everybody's out there going, look at my life and I'm doing this. And if you're not doing that, you're thinking there's something wrong with me. And then you get sucked into that. Look, it's the discipline of not letting your lifestyle ramp up. You can, I'm not saying upgrade your apartment, but don't go buy and lease the fancy car, even though you've got the cash flow to do it because you're working. Find the assets, find what you like. I found real estate that worked for me, but
and just for the group, what is the difference between an asset and a liability? Just slow it down and just really understand that.
Yeah, well, an asset is something. It can be tangible. It could be a paper investment. It's something that actually provides a value back to you. Either you use it, or it provides capital or cash flow, but it provides something that's a benefit to you as the owner of that asset. The liability would be easy to call that today. It's debt. It's any kind of debt. There's good debt and bad debt, but it would be like debt, credit cards, racking those up, leasing personal cars. I don't think you should lease or finance a car. It's easy to do if you have decent credit, but they make it too easy. Discipline means, again, you don't ratchet up. I would tell kids today, I have young kids today that are doing this from outside of our group, is they're learning to take their investment capital and buy an asset, whether that's paper secured by real estate, which is producing cash flow, or do something with their parents, and like I did with my dad, a rental property, and you get half the cash flow. Well, now that cash flow can buy that car because you just match payments. So the asset's doing it. I'm not having to work for it. The asset, and that asset will keep producing. Even if you finance that car for 5 years, assuming that's a good asset, it keeps producing. Now the car's paid off, and now the asset's still producing. It's the asset. It's people think that what you do in life, your career, your skill sets, your education, that's what wealth is about. Wealth is not what you do. It's what you own. It's what you own. That's back to the asset again. It's what you own. Now you're an investment yourself. So I'm not taking away from education and working hard to produce the initial capital, but in the long run, wealth is not created by you just working harder and maybe being a neurosurgeon making $1,500 an hour. I mean, that's great and wonderful, but that's not freedom. That's not going to get you where you want to go. The assets, what you own, is what will get you to freedom.
Okay, so someone wants to, let's go back to the scenario again. So someone's 25, 50 to 100K. They want this freedom. We're looking into real estate. How would they go about that? Would they?
So yeah. So yeah. If we're looking at real estate, we'll just take that and say that's the example we're using, the vehicle, which again I think it's the best, but it takes some time and effort. It's about relationships. So so a young person, just like I was young, one day I was young. You have to develop relationships. You need to find mentors. But it didn't take me that long to figure that out. And then you take a little bit. Look, I didn't have a lot of capital. I had to leverage, financial leverage. Again, we're talking a little bit about debt, but good debt.
And let's put a number down, like for the capital. Like, do you need like 10 grand? Do you need 25 grand? Do you need 50 grand? Do you need 100?
Well, you know what? So if you have more time and enthusiasm than you have money, which is the case many times for our young people, you got the time. There's people like me today that I don't want to be out on the street per se finding the deals. I did that. I understand how to do that. So I would provide capital. I do provide capital today to people who actually are on the street finding good real estate deals. And I'll add capital as a lender. I'll do equity deals with them, but the capital's there. If you're willing to put the time in to learn what people like investors are looking for, there's a great connection there where your time effort can bring the money in, and then putting these types of joint ventures together on just one-off deals is not hard to do. I would work with anybody if they have the desire and the perseverance and would take direction to go out. Here's what I'm looking for. You got to go do the legwork. You got to go knock doors. You got to make cold calls. You got to look for vacant houses, whatever it is we're trying to find. I don't want to do that anymore. I've elevated past that. So take the time that you have as a young person and turn that into the collaboration that will bring you the capital. So it doesn't have to always come from you. That's a fast starter.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Let's say someone wants to do that. What would someone be looking for? Okay.
So I'll just give you a real life example. I worked here in, like the last 10 years. This was a gentleman who left corporate, but he had construction background and he wanted to leave corporate and be on his own. So he learned about wholesaling properties and how to evaluate properties and the whole 9 yards. He's really good with that. He's good with people. So I joint ventured with him, and he didn't have a lot of money. He just had the desire and the experience. In this case, he's a little bit older than the young person we'll talk about now, but it still goes in the same way. You can still trade your time. And so I put capital with him. I mean, because I could watch over his shoulder a little bit and make sure he wasn't gonna get in trouble. I put capital, and we worked out, different kinds of splits, but it enabled him to acquire the properties. And we exited out of his portfolio. I did probably 15 deals with him. We exited about 2 years ago. Could have stayed in it, but he had an opportunity to exit. he took a bunch of equity with him, and I took a bunch of equity with me that neither one of us would have had we not collaborated. And that was a perfect joint venture. I put up maybe not 100% of all the capital, but I put up probably 95%.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to bring a lot. He put the time, the effort, the experience, the management, the hard, I'd say it's a lot of the hard work, but he gained from it immensely.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in your book, Own the Freedom, what are we looking at? What does that really touch on about all this?
Yeah. So well, that the principle right there of the power of association, I talk about the business of your money. So that comes back to what we talked about earlier about just being focused on financial acumen, your freedom number, which is your lifestyle burn rate. So knowing what that number is, and then learning how to acquire the assets that will more quickly get to that number, which then gives you really true freedom. The criticality of independent thinking, being not following group think. This is the way you do it. We talked about that earlier, not doing it the way everybody else or the traditional industry says to do it. We touched on wealth is what you own, not what you do. I talk about the fact that you need to have overriding principles before you develop strategies, and the strategies then beget the tactics. Most people do it the other way around. Bright, shiny object. Hey, I'll go do that. I'll go do that. Well, where's the clarity? Where's the purpose behind that? So what you talked about earlier is having that clarity. And I talk about transferable skill sets, different skill sets. So we call them soft skills, but communication skills, negotiation skills that are not leadership, communication, not taught in school today. Those will be a big step up no matter what you do. And really probably the last key chapter is the power of before you are ready. So a lot of people think, well, I can't do this or that because I'm not ready yet. I need to get organized. I need to study more. Nope. Mentors can get you on that road a lot faster, so you don't have to wait until you have degrees, licenses, certifications. Those are all fine, but this world is not about that. This world is about what value can you bring to the people that you help with, collaborate with today. What's the value? And that value can continue to elevate as you continue in your personal growth and your ability to see the world in different iterations. The world's wide open. And it doesn't have to be this lockdown mode that we've had this last year in COVID, or the situation, Jordan, where young people who are going to school, maybe for the right or wrong reason, they're coming out with a lot of times a lot of debt. They're kind of hamstrung from the beginning. And I'm not trying to push down education. I'm just saying, again, have clarity of purpose. Education, college, et cetera, it's not for everyone. And I think we've created a society where it's if you don't go to school, you're missing out. I think that's been way oversold.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear that. The fascinating thing about you, David, is that you were 27 years as a dentist. So what kept you in the dental career so long that you were was it that this is it? Because most people that are in a doctor, a lawyer, accountant, they're in that role, and that's what they do. Not too many of them make the jump to, hey, I'm the real estate investor, and now I'm running a real estate investor mastermind for these different professionals, trying to help them to do it. You know what I mean? That's a pretty interesting niche. So,
well, it has to do with sunk cost fallacy, which means when we put time or money, capital investing in something, our education or a business, and you go whole hog. I mean, it's like your baby. And it's once we put a lot of effort into something, it's hard to say, I'm gonna leave that for something else. It's hard. So that sunk cost fallacy, and I think also the perceived or the perception of security, back to a corporate job, back to being a dentist. I mean, if you're decent, you can always make money as a dentist. And so there's a perception of security there. What pushed me back away from dentistry, back into being more of the entrepreneur and doing something totally different, was my daughter. She had a lot of illnesses. She had high-risk leukemia at a very young age, when she was 2.5 to 5, epileptic seizures, and then at age 12, she was in end-stage liver failure, had to have a liver transplant. It was when I was in the hospital after her transplant, Jordan, and I'm just sitting there watching her breathe. I'm very, very focused on my daughter. I mean, she's trying to get through this thing. And that's when I decided, why am I doing what I'm doing? Now, I was not magnanimously wealthy, but I did take accounting for the real estate that I'd built up over about 15 years. And it was enough to let me sell the practice, take that equity, put it in more real estate. And I never looked back.
This was never That's fascinating that you weren't thinking about both of them at the same time, and it's like a seamless exit, but it was a specific moment where you're like, I'm done.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I doubt very much, Jordan, if not for my daughter's situation, that I would have made that move, even though I could have. Well, I proved I could have. I did. I
Yeah.
didn't go back and do one more day of dentistry. I could have gone and worked for somebody, without having my own practice. I could have done that, but I never looked back. And I think that's the other thing that people are afraid to make a change in their life. And you don't want to be cavalier about it. You don't just throw everything out one day without a plan. But so I had a little bit of a base. The real estate was my base. I mean, I talk about having a plan B today. That was my plan B. I didn't know it was going to be my plan B. Was ready to take it, but it was there. I worked for it. I put in the time. It was there. I knew how to orchestrate capital from real estate. And I thought, you know what? I should have learned the lesson way back when I was that young guy in dental school doing that deal with my dad, when I compared and contrasted waiting tables at pretty high dollar restaurants, good money, but trading time for dollars, and this asset that produced about 10 times my hourly value in the capital gain I got from the asset. See, that was kind of my clue. I just, you just don't think that way, because you think, well, I've got this education and I got to go do this thing I learned how to do. So fortunately I got back to it. Again, we need doctors and dentists and CPAs, and we need engineers and scientists. We need them. So I'm not trying to turn our young people away from that. I need you. I'm getting older. I need some healthcare. So don't leave me. Don't abandon me. But if I can help you on the other side, show you how to create freedom so you're happier in your profession, then maybe I've done a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And now it becomes, dentists who are there because they want to be there, not about the money.
It's a game changer. I say in my book, and I'll say it over and over again, when you have hit your freedom number with outside annuity, passive income from assets, when you hit that number and have a little bit of a safe harbor margin, I simply say add 20%, everything changes. And I have people in our group, Freedom Founders, they hit their number and they're going, I was thinking I wanted to get out of dentistry. I wanted to sell my practice. It was so stressful. It's just, it's eating me up. And now with the stress off, where now it's just like, well, now they enjoy it, because maybe they cut back to 3 days a week. They get rid of like a bunch of insurance plans. They downsize the practice. It's like, oh, it's a different story. I don't have to do all the stuff I was doing because I was on this treadmill. So it changes for everybody when you hit that freedom number and you've got sustainable cash flow that doesn't require you to go to work. You'll probably still want to do something, because we all do. I don't want to just sit on the beach. I couldn't do that. But you'll find something that will either keep you in doing what you're doing and love it more, or like me, you might be able to iterate to something else that's been luring you, but you were afraid to make that move because of the financial constraints. Yeah,
but you're at the point where no matter what happens, you're still going to be okay, which is that's an incredible point to be at.
And I want more people to believe that they can do the same thing, that you can get to a point, even in this crazy upside down political, economic marketplace we have today with all the volatility. It's a scary time for most people. It really is. There's uncertainty everywhere. Look, if you can learn to control your own freedom and get a handle, then it's like putting your oxygen mask on first. You're in the airplane, cabin pressure drops. What do? You put your mask on first, then you go help the other people. Same thing here. It's not a selfish motive to get your situation in hand so that then you can help the other people. Maybe that's with your family or nieces or nephews or grandkids or people in your community, people in your peer group. But I think we have to have a grassroots movement to get us off of this socialist entitlement, spending money everywhere by nation, and get back to, personal responsibility. It's not going to happen overnight. We've gone down the road pretty heavily, but there's enough people that believe in the core values of this country. I think we could turn it around. It's going to take one person at a time feeding off the other one. It's going to take a movement like that, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it definitely, the tough part is that a lot of people are just chasing a title or just chasing a promotion, or I want to make 500 grand a year. Yep. Is that really what you want? Or do you want 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 residual every single month without even thinking? These are both like, but people don't have that other option because they went to the school, they got the degree, they know that this is the way to make money. And it's never thought about, what do I invest in next? What do I do with this money? I let it save up in my bank account. Sounds good.
It's part of that group think thinking like
Yeah.
everybody else, like you've been told to think. This is how you need to think. This is how you do it. It's like, if you follow the majority, the majority's usually wrong. The majority is usually wrong. And you have to be willing to be contrarian. I think you have to develop a discernment about questioning everything. I mean, I question, there's people I follow and I think, they're smart people, but I still question, different parts of what they say. I don't just take everything like, for granted that they're, no, you have to question everything and make sure that you are following a truth that you believe is truth. And definitely evaluate or look at your own belief system, because there's a lot of things that we all believe because we just grew up thinking this is the way it is, or we were told this is the way it is, and we just have embedded that into us. And there's many things that are not true that we've just kind of swallowed up. You gotta be around other people that can help test those and say, maybe there's a hole in that thinking, David, right? Speaking of myself, I gotta be willing to look at it. I can't just be like, oh, I know it all. No, you can't. You gotta be open, but find the right people to gain that wisdom or that clarity from the right people. That also takes a little bit of work. That's back to the power of associations that I put in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you question some of these beliefs that you were talking about, what are some of the main ones that you see that are issues? Like, is it around money? Is it around how to make money? Is it around just friendships, or it's just a little bit of everything?
Oh, it's a little bit of everything, but I think one of the big ones would be the belief that if it's going to be, it's up to me. Now, there's a part of that that's true. You have to get up every day and you got to take action. But I believe that the best action to get towards achievement, which then can turn into success by whatever your definition is, everybody's gonna have a different one, is the best is done with collaboration with other people. So my point is, don't be a soloist. Don't be a John Wayne rugged individualist. Again, love the character, love what he stands for, right? But if you don't do things with other people, you're going to put your own glass ceiling there. You can't do it all. You can't curate all the information. You can't curate all the opportunities, where with the right people, you learn to put things together. I was very much a soloist early in my life, other than the deal I did with my dad. And I knew my dad, and I figured we could do a deal together. But, you're kind of afraid. You're kind of like, you want to keep close to the vest. And I don't know if I want to give up control because, they might, it's that scarcity mindset that does not serve us well. Again, the key is to find the right people. You can get burned and probably will get burned sometimes, but don't let that be what pushes you back into a cave where it's like, okay, I just got to hoard all my stuff and intellect and opportunities. That's like, no, learn to find the right people and collaborate. So that's a big one. The other ones, they're around money, what we talked about, the accumulation model, save, accumulate it. And then hopefully one day you can retire out, and then you start chipping away at that pile, and is it going to last long enough? And then we got the inflation factor. And so I see it's really about the income. It's about the cash flow that's producing, either you're producing it or your assets are producing it. Someday, hopefully your assets produce all of it, and then you've got choices and options. So those are a couple of big ones there, I think, that are out there in the world that people just have bought into and never question them at all.
Absolutely. So for you, when did you realize that your mastermind, there's potential for it? Obviously, your daughter was the one who caused the impact for you to leave your practice, but what caused you to go, hey, there's other people with this issue?
Okay, I'll keep this short. My daughter, I'd sold the practice. My daughter was, she had just survived the liver transplant and gotten through that hard year. My wife said, we haven't sent out a Christmas card letter for quite some time. And I said, great, would you go ahead and write it? And she did. And so she talked about my daughter surviving, and, the year it was getting better. And a little PS at the very end. Oh, by the way, David sold his practice. That's all she said. Didn't say why, didn't say any. So I got calls from probably 5 or 6 friends, colleagues and they didn't question why I did it. Well, I get it. Your daughter was sick. You made a tough decision. Good for you. But hey, how did you do that? I mean, financially, how did you do that? You were only in your 40s. Most of us think we have to work till at least we're in our 60s to be financially prudent. And that's when I divulged what most people didn't know about me, is I was always investing in real estate since I was, very, very young. And so the question was, David, that sounds very interesting. Could you teach me? Could you show me how? And initially I said, yeah, I could definitely, but your 40s, 50s, you're not going to want to do it the way I did it, because that's when I had more time than money. It's like we're talking about the 25-year-old where I was out there hustling, right? You've got businesses or practices. What you need to do is you need to piggyback on some of my deals. That'll do two things for you. One, you actually earn interest off of the deals we do, because we'll have paperwork and splits off the deal, but you can also see what I'm doing. And if you like it and you think you want to try to do it yourself, you can, or you might decide just to stay passive. But I said that way we're not wasting each other's time. You just put some money in my deals. I'll show you how to structure them. I'll show you what I'm doing, how I evaluate them, blah, blah, blah. So I started doing that with, probably 3 or 4, and then the word gets out, right? And then more people are calling me. Hey, David, I heard you are helping Dr. Jones, and I'm a good friend of his from the study club. And okay, I'm thinking, well, I don't want to create this new business called David Goes Out and Finds Real Estate Deals. I did not want to do that, because that's not part of my freedom. So I thought, how can I make this work? Well, it goes back to what I said earlier about collaboration. Who do I know? Well, I've been doing real estate for 20 plus years at that point, and I know a lot of people. So I brought a handful of those people I know that I actually do create real estate opportunities. And I said, come to a small group meeting. I'm going to bring some of my friends in dentistry and medicine, and you come, and I'll be the translator. I will show how we can work together, because I think there's some magic here. That's where it started 11 years ago. We started in 2010, very small, very inorganic. I said very organic. I'm sorry, inorganic. It's very organic. Yeah. And I told the first group of docs. Now I made them put some skin in the game. I said, look, but I didn't ask them for much. I think I said $5,000, 6 months, and I'll do calls with you. I'll help you. I said, I'll get 6 months. We'll see if we want to do it anymore. If I don't want to do it, you don't want to do it, that's fine. We're just going to try it. After 6 months, they all said, man, this has been great. Could we do it again? So I said, okay, well, now we're going to 12 months. And then that started it going. And then as it built, I just started curating more people in my network to come and provide the real estate investment opportunities. And then, the group's grown significantly, and we do a lot of curation now, and we do a lot of due diligence, underwriting deals. I got a securities attorney. I mean, we beefed it up because I want safety for the group. We don't it's not a pitch one. Hey, here's the real estate deal of the day. Because, quite frankly, you and I know that's out there in a big way today. I mean, there's no lack of place you can throw your money if you want to be that kind of investor. So I really want safety in the group. So we do heavy vetting to give the greatest amount of safety to our group. So that's the story of how Freedom Founders started.
That's incredible. That's exciting. It was a niche, and you just kind of played with it and saw how it went, and you saw something that fit for you. That's really awesome.
It was, yeah, as I said, it was very organic, but it was what I would say to everybody today, whatever you're doing, whatever you're looking at, whatever age you are, realize that there's always problems in this world to be solved. And yes, you kind of like need to pick a niche that you like, maybe you have some affinity towards, or you just want to help that group of people. And figure out what are the problems they're having today in their industry, in their business, or whatever it is. What is it? What could I bring to them to solve that problem that no one else is really solving? See, that's the creativity I think we miss in life. And if we just look for how can I add value to people I enjoy working with, that's the first step. And then you can start to build something from there. And don't be afraid to test it. Like my test was 6 months, really, and that was it. Let's just test it. It's no good. I'll take what's good out of it, and I'll figure out what changes need to be made. And we always make changes, but you can't start anything. You can't get to a goal unless you're willing to start something. Just get it started on a low cost, low risk basis, test your model, and you'll get feedback from the marketplace, which will tell you, are you right? Are you a little bit off? Or do you need to change that model completely? And then you haven't put all that sunk cost fallacy in it, like we do when we go down the road to higher education.
Yeah. So I know our time is coming to an end. The last thing, how has COVID affected you, and how are you guys overcoming that?
Well, for me personally, I've had COVID. My wife's had it. My daughter's not. So I survived it personally. From a business standpoint, certainly real estate, we really had to look at, well, we didn't look at it. We dealt with it back a year ago when the shutdown was there, and people were told, you don't need to pay your rent and that kind of thing. What we found is that the right asset, being it was a house or apartment or whatever it was, that made all the difference to attract the right people who weren't in it to take advantage of the system. Now, a lot of people needed help. I grant you that. So the real estate worked for us because we invest in essential real estate. We don't do hotels and tourism and cruise lines, which they got hurt and they're still hurting, right?
Yeah.
From our business, you know, personally didn't get hurt at all. So a lot of our doctors, we really went to work to help them as a group to navigate what they were doing. Brick and mortar, yeah, brick and mortar got hurt a lot. So we did some things to help them. I would say on the back end, you know, everybody that I know made it through. But you and I both know there's a lot of people, sectors in our nation today that are still struggling a lot. And I feel heart wrenched for those people that don't have a step up or are not considered essential, or you know, have been laid off and replaced by automation. I mean, the world is changing at light speed today. And I think the big lesson for all of us is we can't get stagnant and stay in one place, even if we feel kind of comfortable, like, oh, it's running pretty well, things are good. Don't stay there. You've got to continually innovate and be adaptable and flexible, because you don't know when the next turbulence is going to hit. We don't know. We just don't know in our lives. And so you can't sit on your laurels, I guess, is the key thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So where can people get the book? Where can people find you?
So the book at the website, ownyourfreedombook.com, ownyourfreedombook.com. There's some bonuses there. And then, or you can get it on Amazon, but I got bonuses with the other website. You can find me at freedomfounders.com. I do regular blog, podcast. I put a lot of this kind of information out because it's just like who I am. It's like, I love helping people, and I don't need everybody in my group to help them. If I can seed somebody like you're allowing me to do today, to give back to people who are younger, who are hearing this, hopefully there's something in the message that they picked up on and go, hey, I'm gonna grab that one, and I'm gonna take, you know, just like I did when I was younger and read those books about real estate. I thought, here is something, I'm gonna go make something out of this. Now I had to go do the work, but it was a great idea that set me on a course today that I wouldn't be where I am today without having taken that idea that I took back 40 some years ago.
Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate your time, and this has been awesome. Thank you for all the insight.
Thank you, Jordan. Love doing it.